Yes.
Super.
Yes.
Dear Chair, dear directors, dear colleagues, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to address your annual conference. It's a real pleasure. The development of EPTA is a project that I personally care about. So, as mentioned, my name is Emmanuelle Cretin-Magand. I work in the European Commission in the Directorate General of Justice and Consumers, and I coordinate the European Judicial Training Policy. So we'll start by explaining what European Judicial Training is about. Then I will explain why prison staff training is also important to us. And I'll finish by giving some news about what we are preparing for the future at EU level. And there should be time for a few questions if you wish afterwards. So the European Digital Training Policy is about training of justice professionals on EU law. With this, we want to answer several objectives. First, the idea is that if justice professionals are well trained, then they will help us ensure that EU law is well applied everywhere and coherently in the European Union. Justice practitioners, so meaning the professions involved in the administration of justice, are judges, prosecutors, court staff, lawyers, notaries, bailiffs, etc., but also all the way to prison staff and probation officers. So justice practitioners should be able to identify the role of EU law in their daily practice to give EU law its full effect and secure the respect of the rights and the obligations stemming from EU law in the judicial proceedings that they are involved in. A second objective is that we want to promote mutual trust between justice professionals when they are involved in cross-border judicial proceedings to enable a smoother cooperation. And the third aim is that training is a support tool which is also at the service of promoting the rule of law culture and the respect of the EU Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU. All areas of law of EU law are concerned, so civil, criminal, administrative, fundamental rights are covered. So why are we interested in prison staff training as well? Because spontaneously, when you speak about prison staff, you don't spontaneously think about EU law, maybe. And actually, I will speak not only about prison staff, but also about probation officers, because I know that some of the EPTA members take care not only of prison staff, but also of probation officers training. So if you allow me, I'll join the two, because some of their, a lot of their training needs are actually similar. Of course, for probation officers, we cooperate more with CEP, with the Confederation of European Probation, and through CEP with the EPTA members who take care of probation officers. So I'll make a little history. I'll present a little story to go backwards in time to explain to you where all this comes from. So the European Judicial Training Policy is currently governed by a communication which was adopted by the European Commission in 2011. And back in 2011, prison staff and probation officers were not mentioned, actually. In 2011, the EU had just received the competence for judicial training by the Lisbon Treaty, by the entry into force of the Lisbon Treaty in 2010, actually. And at the time, there was a need to boost EU law training for the professions the most in need and the ones who apply EU law almost daily. So the emphasis was really put more on judges and prosecutors mainly, but also court staff, lawyers, and notaries to some extent. Things changed in 2015 when the whole European Commission was mobilized to contribute to supporting the member states in their fight against terrorist attacks on their side. So the European Judicial Training Policy developed two new angles to its work. On the one hand, something that doesn't concern you, but you may have heard of, we work with the European Judicial Training Network on training of judges and prosecutors in the fight against terrorism. And on the other hand, we worked with our colleagues from Home Affairs in the European Commission to promote training on the prevention of radicalization to violent extremism and terrorism. And that's where prison staff and probation officers came in the picture. And we started to work with SEP for the probation officers and with EPTA as well. We realized at the time that EPTA was still in its early development as far as EU member states were concerned. So we decided to try and help already then. From 2016 onwards, we used the EU Justice financial program to support financially training of prison staff and probation officers involved in dealing with radicalized violent extremists or those at risk of becoming radicalized. In 2017, the Judicial training called for proposals for action grants of the Justice program was specifically designed to enable supporting the cross-border cooperation of training providers, including of prison staff. And we were extremely happy that in the framework of this competitive call, so not everyone gets a grant, only the best ones do, EPTA received a 3-year grant to help the network develop itself in the framework of a consortium of partners. So I think it was the Judicial Committee, Europris, and prison authorities from and schools from France, Ireland, Poland, Romania as well in the end, and Sweden. And if I'm not mistaken, today is the last annual conference funded in the framework of this project. And as a sideline, I would like also to welcome the good cooperation that you have put in place with Europris, and to thank publicly Europris as well for the decision it took at the time, and for mention it. I think that the website is actually at the back, hosted by the infrastructure of Europris or something like that. She will give more details if needed for the technicalities. Anyway, to come back to what I wanted to present you. Since 2017, every year, prison staff and probation officers training has been a priority of the annual financial support of the Justice program to support cross-border training projects. So we're participants and partners from different countries. So if some EPTA members would like to develop a cross-border project, among just a few of them, they could apply for a grant while making sure that the project complements and feeds the work of EPTA itself. And such project actually can cover the interpretation and translation costs in the budget of the project, so that language is not a barrier to participation. So you could have additional cooperation. When I say additional, in addition to the EPTA network, which is already doing quite a bit. I guess it will be presented after, so I will not say more. And I'll finish with presenting what will be coming up on our end regarding European judicial training. What is coming up at EU level, and how prison staff and probation officers will be concerned. So as I said, the current European judicial training policy is based on a communication adopted in 2011. And this communication had set objectives to be reached by 2020, this year. So the current strategy for European judicial training actually expires at the end of the year. And moreover, it happens that the objectives that we had set for 2020 were reached actually already in 2017. So there really is a need to update our goals. To help us design a new strategy, we conducted a thorough evaluation, which was published last year in October 2019. And the information can be found on Europe or on the European e-Justice portal on the training section. If you don't know it already, I think Julia intended to put a link on the EPTA website to the European e-Justice portal. I'd like to benefit by the fact that I'm speaking to you now to thank the ones of you who contributed to the wide public consultation that we carried out beforehand to feed in the evaluation. But also the contributions of some of your members this year to the work of our expert group to prepare the new strategy were very much appreciated. The evaluation showed that the strategy's implementation was successful. More than half of all legal practitioners in the EU attended training on EU law already in 2017. Sorry for the little sound music, that wasn't intended. But behind the successful figures, there were actually issues, and notably there are differences between the member states and the professions, and these gaps need to be addressed by the new strategy. Also, the evaluation confirmed the need for prison staff and probation officers to be specifically targeted by the new strategy, as professions who also have some training needs on EU law. Of course, we will never ask prison staff and probation officers to go and follow the same courses as the judges or the lawyers. We will not ask them, all of them, to attend international training events for which they would supposedly need to master English. Prison staff and probation officers do not have the same needs as the other justice professions, and any training offer has to be tailored to those needs. So the new strategy on European judicial training will explicitly mention prison staff and probation officers as part of the target audience of the strategy. Their training needs on EU law are narrower, but they are concerned, for example, by the application of the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU, by the respect of fundamental rights in general and during detention, notably in the context of European arrest warrants. They're concerned by the prevention of radicalization, by ensuring also the success of rehabilitation programs, or they could be also concerned by the EU legislation on drugs, etc. So the new strategy will call on your network to continue developing itself. We are very happy that EPTA already comprises 20 EU countries among its members. We hope that all EU member states will be covered in the near future. EPTA's work is precious on several fronts. To analyze the prison staff training needs according to the tasks that they are in charge of, and where EU law could be a source of the competence, to share good practices among the members, to develop common training curriculum where it could be useful, to promote the national rollout of the materials developed at EU level, etc. So there's a lot of work ahead for your members and the network, and I think that's good news. As you will see towards the end of the year, so when the new European Judicial Strategy is adopted, hopefully in December, the European Commission counts on you, that you continue your good work and your nice developments and the different projects. And in this framework, we were also very happy that a new grant was awarded this year to EPTA. But you will also be able to count on the European Commission and to continue being at your side to support you in the best possible way we can in the future. So don't hesitate to contact us. And for now, I will wish you a very fruitful conference. Do not hesitate to ask questions if I was not clear or if you want more details on something. I'm available, and thank you for your attention.
I'd like to encourage all the attendees to really put questions because our speakers are eager to answer them. So, do we have a question or a comment?
Actually, I have one question. First of all, Emmanuelle, thank you for your contribution. Thanks on behalf of, I hope, every EPTA member for the support we are getting to make EPTA organization be alive and functioning properly. Where do you see, from your perspective, what are the topics that are most overlapping, like judicial training and penitentiary training? What do you think are the topics that are actually, or at the moment, most common that should be, or they are connecting to these two the organizations or to sectors? Yes, thanks.
So the training needs are not exactly the same, of course. The jobs, the tasks are not the same, but some of the topics meet for the judicial world in the strict sense, and because in the wider sense, prison staff may be part of the judicial world depending on the countries, and that's why you are covered by the European. You will be covered by the next European Judicial Training Strategy. So where the judiciary and penitentiary cross is mainly where in the areas which I mentioned, meaning the prevention of radicalization, for example, and the rehabilitation programs. And the two cross each other from different angles, of course, because on the side of the judge or the prosecutor to start, and then the judge, it will be more knowing what are the consequences of the decision they take, what will happen to the convicted person, where this person will end up, and they need to know they need to know you. They need to know the penitentiary systems, know the choices that are available, and so on. And you, on the other hand, need to be at the receiving end, knowing what are the consequences, who you're getting, and what are the programs. At EU level, there were several projects. So I know there was a conference back in 2019 organized specifically on the fight against radicalization. It was organized by the European Commission, and several projects were presented and shared. And I think that some of your members were involved. At least the ministries some ministries were taking part. The idea was to develop different things. So some were tools to identify radicalization, to know how to approach convicted people who seem to be radicalized or at risk of radicalization, and so on. But the other projects were also about training the prison staff so that they would use these tools. And there may be some goodies to be gathered from that, so that the EPTA builds on it as a network. You could pull it together, take out the things that you think are the most relevant for the schools, the penitentiary schools, and then share it among your members so that they see if they can use it nationally, if it can make sense. Maybe also the grants can be used to translate some of the material, because I guess that English-only material cannot really spread out in all the different prisons. Not everyone speaks English. But what I just said is actually valid for rehabilitation as well. On the judiciary end, they need to know what they are asking for. And on your end, you are the first implementers in partnership with probation officers. And I think Julia sent the link. Thanks. So the other big topic is the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the EU in general, and the European Convention of Human Rights, where both the judiciary and the penitentiary, from the beginning of the judicial chain to the end, have to ensure its respect. And where the two cross each other actually is, at least from our perspective, in the Justice and Consumers, and even more in my department, because I told you that European Judicial Training covers civil, criminal, law, and so on. But it happens that the Judicial Training team, is in the Criminal Law Directorate. And next door, almost, because in these days we're a bit almost all teleworking, but next to our offices are the colleagues in charge of the European Arrest Warrant. And in the framework of the European Arrest Warrant, you all know that detention conditions, respect of fundamental rights, and so on are things that are looked at by the lawyers, and they are looking for arguments so that they oppose to the European arrest warrant, and sometimes it's rightly so. Other times it's well, something that will be ruled out by the judge. It depends on the cases, of course. But you see, the topic concerns the judiciary and the penitentiary worlds, but you will not be applying them from the same viewpoint, of course. So I wouldn't say that you would benefit by common training, but maybe you could benefit by having some common events or maybe training that you would need to analyze yourself between judges and prison directors. Maybe not prison staff as such, but so that the sort of management levels meet and know each other, so that in these frameworks, when the good cooperation ensures you an even nicer outcome, so that the good cooperation is even better ensured. So I guess that answers partly your question.
Yeah, thank you, Emmanuelle. There is actually one more question, and I would like to give floor to Flores Mulder to raise his question. Hello?
Il y a le numéro de téléphone quelque part pour que je puisse l'appeler, parce que sinon... C'est votre secrétaire Elie qui pourrait faire.
Okay, do we have a question from Mr. Mulder?
I guess he doesn't know he has the microphone open.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, it seems that there are no questions for now. Anyway, I think, Emmanuelle, it was very inspirational, and I really can imagine that from the perspective of cooperation and seeing, I would really highlight what you said, that seeing not only this decision in the court, but also the whole story that will continue in facilities, in prisons, and that is very important to realize for both parties. So that's really a very nice point of view, and I agree with you. There is a lot of work to do, and hopefully, yeah, well, the cooperation will work, and either among EFTA members and also with the network of judicial institutions. So thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you. It was really a pleasure. Have a good conference.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.